Welcome to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. I'm your host, Luke Darnell. This man has the following finishes in the American Royal the past 3 years. 11th, Reserve Grand Champion, and this year, Grand Champion. Enjoy this podcast with American Royal Champ Travis Duffy from Las Call Heroes. While you're enjoying this podcast, please share it out on your social media, and also be sure to like the podcast on the service of your choice. Every little bit helps. Thanks. This is our first time having a podcast right after the American Royal. And what we're going to do from here on out, as long as this podcast exists, is we're going to have the American Royal Open champ come on. Because it's the biggest contest in barbecue. It's the one that everybody wants to win. And if you've ever cooked the Royal and sat there and to see friends win and to be excited about it, it gives you goosebumps. It's giving me goosebumps right now just having the American Royal champ on here. So if you all will please join me in welcoming, and I know that you will never get tired of hearing this, World Champion, American Royal Champ, Travis Duffy. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Luke. How are you tonight?
I'm good, man. I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off today. It's crazy. But I reached out to you because I wanted to have you on, and you were more than willing, and I'm so excited to have you here, bud.
Hey, I'm glad you asked me to come on. I was, as you think about podcasts, you hope you can be on when you do something like this. I've listened to a lot of your podcasts, a lot of the guys you've had on, and I really like your format and how you kind of maybe take it maybe a little bit more into the personal part of it, and I enjoy that. So I'm happy to be here today.
I think we had kind of a moment at the Royal because we were on stage together, and because you got second chicken, correct?
I did. I got second with a 180. I think there was a 3 or 4 of those, and I was just happy to have gotten that done.
And I remember you getting up there, and I was like, man, T-Duff kills the Royal. I mean, he kills the Royal. And I'm like, I wonder who won chicken. And and then lo and behold, we got to win chicken. Now, this was not your first square trophy.
No, I got the Reserve Grand Champion in the Open in 2019 also. And when that happened, that was a complete surprise. Because you know how the Open goes. They start calling people's names overall that maybe haven't even heard their name called that day. We had one call that year in pork, and that was it. So you sit at awards, and you never know what's going to happen. Did the other 3 literally hit the bottom 3 tables? You just don't know. So when they called us for reserve 2019, it was very shocking, to say the least. It's a little bit different dynamic this year when we won it, given what we had for calls, but either way, it doesn't take away from how special both days were for us. Days I'll never forget.
Absolutely, man. And I remember 2019 because we had finished 8th, and we were up there, and we were standing there, and I'm sitting around trying to remember calls. I'm super ecstatic that I'm up there, but I'm trying to remember calls. And we're all barbecue people, and so let me digress a little bit here. So when you get a call, that means you get to hear your name and you get to go up. And when you're at a barbecue contest, even if it's a 25-teamer, you're counting calls. And this year, you had 3. My friend Bill Gillespie had 3. Dustin from Hogline had 2 high ones. And we're sitting there going, man, this is like a 3-team deal at this point. Like, and who lost something? And I'll hear this from Gillespie later because I texted him and I was like, are you nervous in the service, buddy? And then when they called him for where they did, I was like, oh shit. Like, and then I was like, well, this is T-Duff or Hogline, and I was sitting real close to Dustin, and they called him for reserve. I knew you'd won. And and it was really cool, man. Like, especially after following up your reserve with a grand.
That's
Talk
just
about
nuts.
that a little bit, man. That's something.
Yeah, it's, you know, you look back at it now and it's like, how did we accomplish that? You think about it and you can even say, man, it would be so cool. You reserve it the one year, I'm going to come back and win it the next time. We can all say that. It sounds cool on paper, but the likelihood of it happening is probably, there's a better chance of getting struck by lightning than doing what we did. Somehow, uh, some way, we made it happen. I'll probably never understand it, but
You don't have to. That's the best part, man. You don't have to understand it. And couldn't have been happier to come up there and shake your hand. That was a big deal for me.
I was really happy for you. I knew you had won Chicken Team of the Year not too long ago, and I just, knowing how we all think that square trophy and chicken had to put the cherry on the top of the Chicken Team of the Year for you. I bet, didn't it?
Yeah, man. Wow. Now you're interviewing me.
Well, I was just happy to be up there. I knew how strong of a chicken cook you are, and so to be on late 2020 and early 2021, I went through a chicken drought that was terrible. I couldn't score above a 25th place in chicken at a contest. I went a whole year without a single call in chicken, and we were lost. We were turning in chicken that I couldn't find a problem with, things that I was scoring with in the past. And then, we'd made changes, but they were not the changes that needed to happen. And finally, about mid-season, we started to hit on a couple things. And one of the weird thing is I got to, where did we go? Oh no, this was even before mid-season. It was June. We went to a doubleheader in Nebraska and getting ready for that doubleheader. And I'm like, oh great, here we go. I get to trim 32 pieces of chicken on a category I'll never get a call in. And I told myself, I'm like, you know what? I'm only going to trim 16. I'm going to cook 8 a day. Like, if I'm just going to get 25th in chicken anyway, I'm just going to trim 8 a day and get 25th and move on. The funny thing is, when I started trimming less chicken, I started focusing a little better, and my scores turned around. So I'm still only cooking 8 because I cook
Dude,
8.
isn't that's the truth though? Like,
Yeah,
I stopped. When we won Chicken Team of the Year, I was cooking 16. I was cooking on backwoods, which made a big deal because I had plenty of room. So
sure.
I could run 16 and then pick my favorite 6 or 7, put them in the box. And a couple of years ago, we were at a contest. We were at that triple in New Jersey, and we cooked day one. We had 3 calls. We finished last in chicken. And this is right after I switched to Jambo.
Sure.
And I was like, I'm not putting chicken on that Jambo again in my fucking life, ever. Not doing it. I'm sorry for cussing everybody, but I've had 3 bourbons since I got home, which was about 20 minutes ago. And I said, I'm done. And I texted Tim Shear and I said, I have a 30-gallon drum. I need to process because I'm not doing this again. And he gave me 15-word text, and we won chicken the next day. And I've cooked chicken that way the rest of my life.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. Just being on stage with you, number 1, was awesome. Number 2, getting that square trophy. We don't have one. We didn't never had one, and made that 20-hour drive back. Very awesome. How long was your drive?
Mine's not as bad as yours. Mine's 8, and that's enough too. But those long ones, man, that's about what we got to drive to get down to Oklahoma. I think it's 15 maybe to get to the KCBS World Invitational. So I feel your pain on it. It ain't, but it's a little easier to take those drives home when you got some cool trophies in the back seat. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. It was. Oh, I put it in the front seat.
I don't blame you on that. We had ours in the back, but we did buckle it in.
And I carried it into every hotel room I stayed in on the way home. And I'd walk in and check in, and people were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I can't leave this in the car, dude."
So we did this kind of funny. I'm just telling weird stories like this because I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. This is kind of some of the stuff that maybe some of the other podcasts don't have, but so like this is kind of a little bit kind of I don't know. People are going to learn some stuff about me on this podcast and just kind of cool. So when we reserved it in 2019, it takes you a little bit longer to get out of the track than it does when on a normal one. So most everybody was probably out of there a large amount in 2019. So I was like, well, if I could just get myself back to Omaha for the night, we'll call it. We'll be good. And if I remember right, I think we pulled into Omaha about 10:30 at night. Not too late, but it was late enough. And we didn't have a hotel booked, so me and my teammates started, hitting the Google machine and seeing what there was out there for hotels and stuff. And we had just reserved the Royal and come up with a pretty cool $8,000 check. And I'm calling hotels, and there's this one by this convention center. It looks pretty cool. I'm like, well, whatever it is, I just want a good room and a comfortable bed. After what we did, I called this one hotel. They're like, well, Mr. Duffy, we got this suite here, and it's got this walk-in shower that's massive and all this, and I forget the price, and I'm trying to negotiate a better price, and my teammate turns around and goes, dude, you just reserved the Royal, you got an $8,000 plastic check, how about we just pay full price? I'm like, okay. So
that changes shit a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. So we got that hotel, and I tell you what, they weren't lying. I hadn't showered yet that day. I had the most amazing shower, and we were like, this hotel room rocks. I would be lying if I didn't tell you that when we left the Royal this year, I did not call that hotel, give them my name, and see if they could look up that exact room. And we got
it. That's a great story, man. That's what's awesome, man. It's let's get into it. Let's introduce the world to you. So I'm gonna go ahead and say this. I'm gonna ask you a rapid fire question first.
Sure.
Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about you.
Absolutely.
So what do you think they are?
Unfiltered? Probably have a misconception, I don't really know if it's a misconception, but I'm sure I have a reputation to kind of being an asshole in the game. And they're wrong, but I think if some people really understood where I'm coming from and what I'm really trying to get across sometimes when I'm making a point, that they might not have the same opinion of me, and I'm trying to, let's be honest, I'm a farm kid from South Dakota. I'm pretty rough around the edges. I struggle a lot of times with putting together the correct way to say some things, but I've tried to get better over the years, and I have my moments when I slip. I don't know, but don't think of it the wrong way, but I kind of consider myself a little bit of the Tony Stewart of barbecue. I'm a little vocal. Sometimes I say things that don't come out the right way. But at the end of the day, I'm going to give you the shirt off my back the day that you need it. Even if we don't get along, the day that you need my help, I'm going to help you. It's just the way I am. I don't know it any other way. I was raised as a farm kid. I was raised with the morals and the ethics, if you will, to help people when they need help, and that's what we do. So there's that side of me that sometimes gets overshadowed by, how loud I am sometimes on social media. But, I think people just need to, understand where I'm coming from a little bit if they would. At the end of the day, I'm just passionate about what I do, and sometimes I let that get the best of me.
You know what? We all do when our passions come into it. And you know what? It's not a character flaw. It's fantastic. I mean, you're a real person, and I knew that moment I met you. I mean, my first conceptions of you were online, and then when I met you, I was like, this guy's awesome. Like, and I mean, I wish we could spend more time together, and that's why I'm glad we're doing this, because I mean, let's let them know. Let's get into it. All right?
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that I love about the American Royal is the fact that I get to see cooks like Luke Darnell that I only maybe get to see once or twice a year. It's one big, we always say one big family reunion at the Royal, and I love it. I'm glad so many cooks take the effort every year to come to the Royal.
You know what? That's a good point, man, because every time we have somebody that wins a contest on the East Coast and they've never been, or it's their first win, the first thing I do is give them a hug and tell them, like, man, so proud, glad you won. And then the second thing I tell them is, you have to go to the Royal. You have to go to the Royal. And they're always like, it's a long way. I'm like, no, you don't understand. When you're there, and I equate it to being in a barbecue snow globe. You're there and everybody's there, and you get to meet people and you get to go do things and eat things, and I'm so tired by the time I cook one piece of competition barbecue because I've done so much, and I'm blessed to do that because, man, like you said, yeah, that's maybe the one time a year I see you, and that's cool.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of great people in our barbecue family that we don't get to see a lot. And it's kind of from your region. It's fresh on my mind, so I'm going to say it. There's a guy from your region that just won his first GC just last weekend, and I've been rooting for him to get that first one for the longest
Who
time.
said?
Exactly.
Dude, I was there. He beat my ass.
I'm going to say, I love you, Luke, but he needed to kick your butt that day because we need to have him at the Royal next year.
Well, yeah, listen, I am a huge fan of good googly goo. Have been forever. And I do this thing whenever he gets a call. I go, good giggly goo. And I at awards this week, this is Lemoyne, Pennsylvania, and it's a contest that we've cooked twice and we've won twice. So I'm sitting there listening to chicken. I'm sitting next to Mark Gibbs, and they get the first place chicken. We hadn't heard our name. He goes, just go ahead and get up. And I'm like, nah, there's fire out there. There's fire out there. And he goes, what do you mean? I'm like, there's fire out there. Like, and then they called Sid, and I went, see? And then I got 3 other calls, and Mark had 3 calls, and Sid had 3 calls. So we're sitting there, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I got enough thunder for this. And I thought I had enough thunder to beat Gibbs. I did not. I finished third, which is an OVS staple. Finished in third. And then Gibbs reserved, and then everyone was sitting there, who won? And I'm like, man, that's my boy. Like, talk about great guys in barbecue. I'm glad we're talking about it, man. We'll get to the question soon, but I'm glad we're talking about Sid because he's just one of the best. And he's been working so hard for 2 years. And to see him win and to know that he'll be with us in Kansas City next year, that's amazing.
I love it. It just shows, all the way around what hard work does. You put the time in, you put the effort in, you get the results like that. And it was only a matter of time that he was going to bang one off, and he finally did. I'm proud of him. I can't wait. I got to hang out with him a little bit last year at the KCBS World Invitational. I think he was helping. He might have been helping Childs, or I forget. He was helping another cookout. And I told him, I said, you'll be at the next one. Just keep doing what you're doing. And he's going to be at them. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a great dude. But enough about Sid. I'm going to have Sid on here too at some point because I think the world needs
that episode out.
The world needs to know him. I mean, we've had a lot of first-time winners out here, and two of the ones recently is Sid, Good Googly Goo, and Greg Boggs from Boggs Hogs. They're amazing cooks, and it's just been. I mean, I know what it's like. Sit there and grind for your first win, and when you get it, man, like the world opens up, and then the monkey's off your back. Then you can cook and just cook, and you know what that's like too.
Absolutely. It seems like that first one is the hardest one to get. It's kind of, it's almost like you put so much pressure on yourself to get it, you're probably actually hurting yourself. But when you finally get it, usually what it is, it's the realization of the day that you win it. You look back on what you turned in, and it was like, it really didn't have to be the most mind blowing, amazing stuff in the world that wins. It's just good barbecue, you know? And then you start to tell yourself, I can get myself into a rhythm where I can cook like that pretty consistently. And then you start to have some more success. And it kind of opens, it just kind of opens your eyes a little bit as what it takes to win, and that it's really not what you think. And it's not a bad way either.
Right. It's not. But it does take the pressure off and just allow you to express yourself through your food.
Absolutely.
Well, enough bullshit. Let's get to it. I can't ask you the first question. The first one is, what's the biggest turning point in your life as a pitmaster? Maybe I can. What is it?
Well, before a couple weeks ago, it would have been different, but it's going to be winning the American Royal now.
What was it before that?
Probably reserving it. And between that and I won our state team of the year points chase in our state three times. It's probably my other, thing I've done a lot as far as points like that were highlights of my career.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's good. But man, you've done so well on such a big stage. It's so cool. But are you a superstitious fella?
A little bit. I like to think that I'm not, but I catch myself trying to, well, you know how it is. You have a good day, and it's like you tie something together like, oh, I had a good day and I brewed this pot of coffee. And you're like, shit, I got to order more of that coffee because I'm almost done. Things like that. So yeah, I am. No matter how much I try not to be, I am.
Do you have any rituals or routines that you have to do at every contest?
A little bit. So we're kind of known for our caramel rolls, just like the Shagan Boys are kind of known for.
Oh man, we fucked up. I was supposed to bring you cornbread.
It's all right. We'll have it next year. It'll be okay.
All right.
Make sure to bring it next year.
Okay.
So I have the superstition now that if I don't, like, if I have one of those weeks where I get busy and usually it happens, I forget which day we're leaving if we're driving a ways. And if I don't get the caramel rolls made, shit, didn't make them, then I don't. To me, I don't feel we do as good if I go to a contest and don't bring caramel rolls. That has to happen. Most people get upset with me when I don't bring caramel rolls too. Yeah, there's that superstition. I don't really know if I have this as purely, but kind of listen to the same playlist every contest. And it's kind of a mix of stuff that just kind of gets us pumped up and in the zone. It's everything from Shine down to Cardi B on that playlist, but it's fun, trying to think of other stuff. I stick to a pretty good routine throughout every week. I kind of do the same things about every time. Sometimes when there's doubles or I'm traveling farther, I got to switch it up a little bit. But for the most part, we follow the same regimen throughout the week.
So you do the same thing every week?
Yeah, I try to keep it the same routine every time, as and I can totally walk you through it if you want me to touch on it, but if it's something, my week of prep and what I do is pretty similar week to week. I trim the same stuff on the same nights and make injections the same. The only time it doesn't really change is, like I said, if there's like some crazy travel that has to go on. If I got to do like what you did for the Royal and drive 20 hours, there's going to be a lot of stuff that happens on Monday and Tuesday that, maybe would be done on Wednesday or whatever. But for the most part, we stick to a routine pretty well.
You know what? That's a good point. When you're traveling as far as I did, I still stayed to it. I mean, if I have to stop the trailer and go in the trailer and do something, because you can't change it. I mean, if it works, then it works. And I mean, that's part of this, man. It's like being comfortable in your own skin and being comfortable with what you're doing. That's a big deal.
Absolutely. It's the same way. If I was to travel like you do, and if I have to leave, if we have to be traveling on Wednesday, and Wednesday's the day I make my injections, I'm going to pre-mix the dries and the wets, so then I can, on the road, like you said, you can pull over and go to your fridge and, pop them together like you would at home, just got to have it planned out. But yeah, we'll kind of do the same thing too.
Absolutely. So we've talked a lot about your successes because they're recent and they're big. But I like to talk about failures, man.
Sure.
Do you have a favorite failure of yours where something happened and it really like changed the way you think or the way you compete?
Well, I'll probably touch on what I feel probably our first major mess up in barbecue was, and how we kind of overcome it if we did. And I guess if this is our biggest mess up, maybe we shouldn't be too, maybe we're just fortunate. But it was like, I believe it was 2017. We were cooking a contest in Watertown, South Dakota, and we went to set the sauce on the chicken, and I had the chicken tray in my hand, and I had it up on my gateway drum. And when my teammate went to pull the lid off, yeah, he hit the tray of chicken, and all of it landed in the gravel. We had to then pick it all up off the ground and bring it back in the trailer. Got to basically get as much of the sauce off as we possibly could. Almost rinsed them, re-sauced them, and set them back on, and did it. And the whole time I was worried that the judges are probably going to get a bunch of gravel. And I turned that chicken in, and the one of the pieces that didn't make the box that I tried, I took a bite, started chewing it, and got a big old crunch in my tooth. I'm like, oh, we are so toast. We actually survived and got a 14th chicken that day with it, and 5th overall. But that was probably one of our biggest failures, and we overcame it by remembering what David Bosca told me one time, and I think he's even touched on this a couple times on his podcast, is the win methodology. What's important now? That when you have a massive problem like that, that's the first thing you have to ask yourself. What is important right now? What can I do to get out of this situation and rectify it? And kind of one of those things of, not ever giving up on a particular category. You got till 12:04:59 to get that chicken turned in. Don't give up on it till it is, and we did that, and we overcame it. That was probably one of my first failures. And then I'm probably one of my defining, I don't want to call it failures, but 2020 was not nice to us as far as the season is concerned. We just did not have results that I wanted. Maybe I'm being too picky, but if there was a stretch where we, weren't getting some top tens and struggling, we just couldn't find what they wanted last year for the longest time. And
Yeah, but that's a hard year to assess that way.
very, very much, we had such a wild demographic of judges that changed from contest to contest, because there was a lot of our regular judges that didn't feel comfortable coming and judging, and most of the judges were off the street, and it was tough to find some consistency in the judge tent. I let it eat me alive last year.
You shouldn't have, man. Last year you had to backyard the shit out of your food. That's what you had to do.
Yeah, and I was going the opposite direction. I was doubling down on not doing that. Just trying to ride this, make tenderness perfect. I think you nailed it. And I think it was Bobby Stanfield who told me this last year at one point in time when I was struggling. He's like, you're giving them an IPA when they want a Bud Light. And
exactly, man.
And that kind of shed some light on some stuff. And, I started maybe following that a little bit more. And I started to kind of see towards the end of the year a little bit better results, and kind of rode that into this year. And I think you can still play that backyard game a little bit. I don't really know if you want to call it backyard. I think I touched on this on another podcast. I forget, but I'll touch on it again. I think our judging right now is kind of a mix of what it was before the pandemic and afterwards. I think a lot of it has to do. I think a lot of these newer judges I think they want to taste some smoke. They want to taste some flavor, more than the past. In the past, you could really nail a tenderness, and if you come back in with your standard traditional flavors and did a good job of balancing them out, your taste score is going to probably follow with that tenderness score. But now, this day and age, I mean, I get a lot of 9s in tenderness and 7s on taste, and trying to work on that. We're kind of seeing that they want a little more. Kind of a turning point in my 2021 season. Not that it started out that bad, but I'd cooked a couple, and we ended up going to Valley, Nebraska, Mr. Blaine Hunter's hometown, and cooking.
Oh, great contest, dude.
Yeah. And at that contest, I decided that I wasn't changing anything, but I wouldn't say even be heavy handed. I was just going to accent my flavors a little bit more. We ended up 180ing pork that day and finishing 3rd overall. And that kind of stuck a little bit. And we just kept kind of rolling with that mentality the rest of the year. And it's paid out pretty good for us.
Hey, friends. This is not your normal ad for a podcast, but I wanted to bring your attention to a GoFundMe initiative for our friend Aaron Bordage. Aaron is pitmaster of Lucky 19 and works at Northern Fire in Minnesota. Aaron was critically injured in a head-on collision on Tuesday, September 8th, and has suffered multiple injuries. He's going to be requiring several weeks of ICU care and extensive surgeries and rehab to get better. So the BBQ family has started a GoFundMe and an auction and a Venmo account so that we can all come together to help Aaron with his expenses, as this is going to be quite a lengthy and extensive recovery. So I encourage you can go and Google Aaron Bordage, Bourdage, accident or GoFundMe, and that will take you to the GoFundMe page. You can also go to the Shiggin and Grinnin Facebook page, where you'll be able to find all manners of information about how to help Aaron. So the BBQ family always talks about how great it is. Let's show Aaron how great we are. And Aaron, if you're listening, or Missy, we all have you in our thoughts and prayers. So thank you. This is a call for entrance for the World Junior Barbecue League Championship to be held November 6, 2021 at AutoZone Park in downtown Memphis, Tennessee. This championship, started by Melissa Cookston, features a $20,000 prize purse. High school kids are eligible, and this is a great opportunity to get kids involved with barbecue and to learn what it is to be part of a team. So, you can find more information at worldjuniorbarbecueleague.com. That's worldjrbbqleague.com. Check it out. Absolutely. Let's get into some equipment stuff.
Sure.
So what's one of the most worthwhile investments that you've made in competition barbecue?
I'd probably have to say that the trailer and pit that I have now is probably the most worthwhile investment. Not that I didn't have a good setup before, but I was coming and I was unloading a pretty heavy Yoder pit and a couple drums. We were coming out of just a basic enclosed trailer, and it just required a lot of work in between contests. Just a prime example, you get home, you got to clean the trailer. Well, before we could clean the trailer, we had to unload all the pits and get everything, and then you could clean the trailer. Just a lot of work, and getting to the point where we have a porch trailer where we can roll into a contest and pretty much unhook, level it, plug it into power, and be ready to go. And kind of the same, come home, pressure wash the pit, mop the floor, clean up the trailer.
So what are you cooking on now?
I'm cooking on an Outlaw, pretty similar to your Jambo. They cook the same, but standard offset.
That's awesome. And a lot of people like to make fun of the Outlaw. I refuse to, because I think it's a great pit.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of comes down. Everybody should just kind of, if you love a Jambo, buy the Jambo. You like Outlaw, cook on what you like to cook on. I'm not opposed to cooking anything. If I had to cook a contest across the country and somebody offered me up a Jambo to cook on it, I'd go cook on it in a heartbeat. I'd probably cook on it just like I cook on my Outlaw. I might screw everything up, but I'm going to try it that way. I don't think.
What did you cook on before the Outlaw?
I cooked on a couple gateway drums and a Yoder pellet cooker. We're basically flavorizing on the cans and wrapping and going to the pellet cooker.
Yeah, but man, moving to that offset, I mean, I did the same thing. I cooked on backwoods, and it was great, and we had a lot of success. But to do what I wanted to do, it required a change, and I can't believe that. Like, if I could give anybody advice, like when you get into competition barbecue, if you want to cook on something, save your money and cook on that. Like, I always wanted to cook on an offset, but I couldn't afford an offset, so I bought other pits and cooked on those and did great on them. But at the back of my mind, I was always like, I really want a Jambo. I really want an offset. And when I got that, number one, the learning curve was like a year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different style of cooking, you know, and the heat, you know, from cooking on your Jambo, the heat comes from a totally different direction than a lot of us are used to cooking on, you know, your standard traditional pits. And, you know, it takes a little bit to get that, you know, learn that and get that down, because it colors a lot different. It can, and the reason they win so much is they color it to an advantage if you'll let it be an advantage to you, you know. But you know, if you've never cooked on one before and you got an airflow that flows like we do on our pit and you're not familiar with it, it's probably gonna have a couple rough days before you get her figured out. But you know, like when you do, those style of pits just crank out some awesome barbecue. And you know, I learned that, you know, I had never really cooked on quality offsets before. I've cooked on a lot of other people's home built offsets, and you know, and they all have their quirks, you know, versus a pit that's been built by a builder that knows what they're doing. I learned that my cook style favors an offset. I fell in love with that thing so fast. I won my first GC the third time I cooked on that pit. Now I will never. You're probably the same way. Somebody ever asks you ever going to upgrade to a? You know, I got a 26-inch barrel Outlaw. Now they got 28s and even some 30s. Everybody's like, when you get to 28? I'm like, never. I'm like, that. I'm going to cook on until I retire. I love it.
Right. And I can't believe it took me so long to get there. I just love doing it because each cook is different and you have to just be really good at what you're doing. And I love doing it that way. But there were a lot of people also. I was known as a bit of a partier and a guy that couldn't love to hang out and party and everything. And people were like, you can't run an offset. And I'm like, yeah, there's ways to run that offset, still accomplish what I do socially.
Oh yeah. As far as I'm concerned, these offsets that we cook on are some of the easiest pits to run. They almost run themselves. They're so efficient. If
That's the secret, Travis, shut up. Don't tell him. Don't tell him that it's easier.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about expensive shit. What's a purchase of $100 or less that has most positively impacted your barbecue?
The most recent one, I'm going to give a shout out to Childs on this, and his chicken racks, or those racks he come out with, those, I think we got them from 270 Smokers at building them for him. I bought some of them in the off season, and I love them things. I mean, I think I spent like 40 or 50 bucks on a couple of them, and they're awesome. I love them.
What rack is that?
It's his Wolf's Revenge. It fits perfectly in a half pan. I think he's got them for full pans too. And it's this stainless rack with a bunch of, you know, it's kind of mimicking a screen or whatever in the bottom there. But I love it. I put my thighs on it. I put it on my offset when I cook them, and then when I pan, I just set that in there, and it's just this awesome little chicken racks that they just work good. I wish you would have come out with them like 4 years ago. It's life a lot easier getting your chicken in and out of the pans and things of that nature. It's the simplest thing, but I tell you what, it's effective.
That's cool.
Probably my latest one.
All right. Well, let's switch. You got more?
trying to think
People
here.
love these things, man. Like people that
Things.
don't have to spend a lot of
Everything,
money on. Yeah, it's good.
So there's a couple little weird things I've done lately that I think, well, the ones I set my sauce and stuff. I bring a 30-gallon can along, and I use that to set sauce, and then it sits alongside my trailer, and it's always running a solid 325 or whatever. It's just if there's something I need to blast quick, it's hot and it's ready there. I buy these pizza screens off of Amazon, and I think a lot of people do this too. And that's what instead of using the actual grate, I just use pizza screens because I can set sauce and put them on there so well and carry them back on a pizza tray below it. And that, and then another stupid thing I've been doing lately, this doesn't cost anything, but I don't know about you guys, but when I trim my chicken, I'm only doing 8 now. I used to have 2 of these, but I used to save. I buy a Smart Chicken family packs, so they're the little bit bigger packs. And when I trim my chicken, I just set them back in one of those styrofoam packs, and I always used to just vac seal that, and then put it in the cooler with the rest of your meat. And sometimes the things would get slid around. I would get a little upset that something would maybe land on top of my chicken and kind of smash it a little bit. So the dumbest thing, and I can't believe I didn't think of this before. So I've been vac sealing that. Then I turn around and I take another one of those styrofoam things and I set over the top of it, and then I vac seal that. So then when it comes meat inspection time, you can throw that in your cooler, and hell, you can put the chicken in the bottom of the cooler and cover it with ice. It doesn't even hurt them now. And then when it comes meat inspection, you can just cut that first layer, pull that off, and there's your chicken, still vac sealed. And then I just throw that in my fridge at the contest. But now I don't even care. My chicken can be wherever it wants in the cooler and doesn't get smashed or whatever. I don't know if anybody does. I think that's kind of cool to do.
That's cool. I've never heard of that. That's pretty awesome.
I don't know if somebody can get something out of that. I think that's kind of cool anyway. The weird thing, you go take classes and things like that. It's the weird little things like that at a class you learn that you wouldn't think actually at the end of the day makes you a better cook, but it has effect on your program some way, shape, or form. And,
and that's funny because I last week I interviewed David Qualls, and it's just funny because he was talking about classes and stuff, and he said, they might take 2 or 3 things away, but is it really worth it? And I didn't disagree with him on the podcast, and I probably should have, because I think when you go take a class, especially if you're an accomplished cook, you're looking for those 2-3 things.
Yeah, I think no matter how much you have cooked, there's always something you can learn. David's been at it for quite a while. I haven't seen in my barbecue career. Some of these guys might not. They may have been cooked long enough now and stuff. They may not get as much out of a class that maybe I do. So there might be some validity, with what he said there. Just for myself, I'm still in learn mode. I want to learn as much as possible.
Dude, but that's smart, man, because I'm still in learn mode. I've been doing this for, how long have you been doing this?
My first year at KCBS was 2014, so it must be 7 or 8 in now.
So we're pretty close.
Yeah.
And I still take a class every year.
Yeah, absolutely. I do too. I've taken a lot of them. I'm starting to get who haven't I take already. But, now I'm probably I'm going to probably take a different approach to my classes now, just because there's some classes I haven't taken that I want to, and they maybe aren't ones that everybody looks at first, but to me, I feel they're important to take given the nature of those cooks.
Sure, man, but at the same time,
I'm going to come out and just tell everybody what the ones I'm talking about. The 2 classes I haven't taken yet are from 2 guys I look up to and legends in the sport. My next classes are Donnie Teal and 4 Legs Up Kelly Wirtz. Just because them guys have been cooking for so long, I just want to go to those classes and just listen to them guys talk about everything. Just because I look up to them guys, and there's going to be stuff no matter how much those guys have seen everything. If it's to be seen, they've seen it. I have to take their class, and I will. Those
Right.
are my next two on there, and I'm not discrediting everybody else. It's just I've taken a lot of those. I've taken a lot of the popular classes, and I'm not saying those aren't popular, but sometimes a guy like barbecue oftentimes is a game of who's hot and who's not, and everybody wants to take the class of the hottest book on the circuit, and I'm no different. I do it too. I've in my past I have went and looked at 100% who did the best last year when choosing classes, and now I'm kind of looking at people's careers a little bit more of, what have they accomplished over a period of time. And you look at those two names I mentioned, they're legends, and I want to make sure before them guys retire that I learned something from them.
That's fair enough, dude. But at some point here soon, people are going to be in like, when can I take the T-Duff class?
Yeah, we might have to work on that a little bit. I got to convince myself that I've done enough in barbecue to sell a class. So we'll see.
And that's hard, man. That's hard. That's hard to get to that point.
Yeah, you're putting yourself out there. The day that you make the decision to sell that tell-all 4-category class, I'm no stranger to classes. I do backyard ones regularly at my sponsor, and then Josh, Pig and Whiskey, and we did a chicken and rib tell-all last year. It went really well, but obviously, given the success we've had, people have been starting to ask a little bit about a standard 4-category class, and we probably have some decisions to make here coming up here.
Fame.
Fame,
buddy. Fame.
I'm just a farm kid, man.
Well, let's switch gears here.
Sure.
Who's impacted your life the most in barbecue?
So I mentioned a name on another podcast, and I'm going to mention them, but I'm going to mention a couple names on yours because I want to spend a little more time on it than the last time we talked about this. So, and the one I mentioned before, and still is first on that list, is John Nilgis with Parrot Head Smokers. Everybody knows John. John's cooked for a lot of years, got a lot of success. I think he might even be number 2 on the all-time KCBS win list, maybe behind QL Mike. John and I chat quite a bit, text back and forth all the time. And it's, we kick ideas off each other, but it's just what I've gotten from John is just probably more on the mental side of it than anything, not recipes or anything like that, but just how to approach barbecue in a way that works, how to handle the emotional part of it, the mental part of it, everything, it's
talk about that a little bit.
Just just a lot of the approach on that, just even just I don't, it's hard to tell because we're like almost friends. We talk almost every day, and it's just the weirdest things that you know how it is, your average everyday conversations. And sometimes you just hear what you need to hear from somebody, either from a support standpoint or a hey shithead, get your shit together type of thing, kind of from a we all have bad days, even even John's had some tough contests this year, and it's crazy that that he's had some of the struggles he's had, and we've had to talk each other off the ledge several times in text messages. But hey, what a better guy to have those conversations with than somebody that's got almost 80 GCs in their career, So a lot of what that guy has taught me has helped me a lot in my career, is progressing and getting a winning mindset and focusing on the right things. I got to credit him a lot for that. And then another person I do need to credit, was just mentioned a little bit ago, is David Qualls. We all know that I am a little rough around the edges, and David's coached me a little bit over the years, and I've just kind of, I don't know. I look up to David, so I see how he handles things and everything, and I think that's helping me be a better person on handling how I handle myself too. I credit. I got to thank him for a lot of the conversations we've had.
Very cool. When you hear the word successful in terms of barbecue, who's the first person that comes to mind?
Darren, Travis Clark, them too.
I'm gonna stop asking this question because I'm so tired of hearing Darren.
Man, that guy, I look at what it took to win one American Royal. He's won so many we forgot.
He's yeah, man. I mean, he's one of my best friends. He's amazing. Yeah, I might have to strike this question because everybody says the same fucking thing.
Yeah,
the GOAT. He's the GOAT.
He is. I mean, Lynn, let's be honest. Every one of us dreams to have that career. We do. If you don't, your head's not in the right place.
Even 1/4 of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he's won like everything. So if I could win like even 1/4 of everything, I would be totally okay with that.
Retire, be done. Right. Yeah. No, I get that. So, all right. Let's get into some different shit. What's the most surprising thing to come out of competition barbecue for you?
Probably the being able to do classes. The backyard classes. I mean, let's be honest, our results on the Kansas City Barbecue Society circuit is what sells seats in our classes. My sponsor, Barbecue Heaven, Fireplace Professionals, they advertise us as accomplished pit masters, and when we do better, we sell more seats. And I would have never guessed I would have ever gotten into a place in barbecue where a bunch of guys that I don't know will come and want to pay to take a class from me. That's really cool. Something I would have never expected I would ever be able to do. And I love it. It's fun.
Oh, dude, teaching is, I love teaching. It's my number one thing that has come out of the barbecue for me. And not necessarily competition teaching, but like teaching cooking and getting people to buy grills and get out there and like, man, make a brisket. And here's how not to fuck it up. I mean, that's like, I got 3 text messages today just based on American Royal stuff. Like, how do I cook a brisket? And I laid out for him, man. I'm like, here's how. Like, and nothing brings me more joy.
Yeah, it's so the most rewarding part about doing classes, and you brought it up, brisket's the hardest one but it's the hardest one for us barbecue competitors, or most of us, and it's also the hardest one for your normal backyard home cook to also nail. And when we do brisket in class, everybody goes home just pumped to go cook that first brisket after taking the class. And when you get those Facebook messages of, I want to thank you for showing me how you cook a brisket, and they'll send their pictures of the first one. It's like, dude, your first brisket looks 1,000 times better than mine did. I sure wish I had somebody like me to learn from when I started, But it's cool that these guys go home and take what they've learned and not only, cook good stuff, but are just happy. They're just flat out happy that they got to cook that particular meal and feed their family, and everybody loved it.
Isn't that the best though, Travis? It's, we cook a lot of backyard, like holiday seafood, and when people send you a message and be like, man, everybody I cooked for today was happy, and you're like, job done.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of comes back the very first year I cooked the American Royal was 2018. And I believe if that wasn't the year that Duffy got inducted into the Hall of Fame, he gave a speech that year for sure, and kind of had hit on the whole barbecue being a gathering, being a family. What does barbecue do? It brings people together. That really hit home, being there live and hearing that from him. Everybody sees Tuffy on TV, but it's different when you get to hear Tuffy in person. He's a good guy and a legend in the sport all by himself. But he hit a lot of nail on the head. And then when you see that you can do the same thing, you can teach somebody, or maybe they ate your food and they get that smile on their face and they love it. I mean, that's awesome. That's what I mean. Trophies are cool. They collect dust. Checks, they get spent the next day, but those are lasting impressions, and they mean a lot to me when we're able to make people happy like that.
Dude, that's you couldn't have said it better. That's pretty awesome, man. Like, just teaching people and then knowing they're giving people good food. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
All right. So we've been on here for a long time. So now it's time to hit the rapid fires.
Cool.
These are my favorites.
All right.
I'm hammered. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've been drinking bourbon the whole time.
Man, I wish I could. They got me on a heart pill right now that I can't have any alcohol for a while.
Oh God! All right, I had enough for you.
Well, luckily I have a doctor's appointment before the KCBS World Invitational, so I might get to have a cocktail with you yet this year.
I'm trying to come out there. Right now, it's not good, but I'm working on it. All right. I hate to ask you this question, but I'm going to. What do you see about barbecue on social media that upsets or bothers you?
Oh, man. It's probably the first thing right now, and I'm not going to say that I haven't been involved in it before, and I've tried to do my best to step away and not do it, but the fighting between cooks and judges is not good for the sport, if you want to call it a sport.
It's not a sport.
It's not. For this
hobby
/ game, we'll call it a game. Well, that's what we'll call it for this game.
Game. Oh, wow. Okay. You just changed that shit. I'm gonna say game from now on.
Yeah, it's game. I mean, that's realistically what we're playing. But it doesn't do us any good to fight in between. I mean, let's be honest. 99.9% of all judges are awesome people, and they judge correctly, and 99.9% of the teams acknowledge that our judges overall are great judges. So it sucks that people get personal between teams and judges on Facebook. It's not fixing the problem. This year I've kind of tried to take a more of a problem solving approach than just complaining about everything, even though I have a tendency to complain about judging too. But, at the end of the day, if we want this better, we got to come together and start looking for real solutions, versus just blaming people. And, so I think that we all got to be a little better at that. For sure. We the one thing that there's a few things that are always talked about in social media when barbecue is criticized, and one of those things is the cost of barbecue, and there gets to be on the discussion on whether contests should be a meat provided, and if that would level the playing field and whatnot. And one of the before I was involved in barbecue, one of my other hobbies or things I did in the past was involved with dirt track racing. I used to help a lot of my friends that race sprint cars, and everybody knows that game is even more ridiculous expensive than barbecue ever could think of. So I've seen a lot of how that realm has tried to control costs over the years, and they have not succeeded. If anything, it's failed, and things have cost more money. You see parts of that world that have succeeded, not in necessarily curbing expenses, but making it still where people are able to do it. To me, I don't know that there is a way that we can ever really curtail expenses, especially this day and age when things keep going up. But what we can do as a whole, as barbecue family, is we, including myself, have to remind ourselves that there are people watching when we're talking online, people that have checkbooks that are deep too. And if we're infighting with each other, what would make that person want to invest in our game if it looks like we're a bunch of drama queens?
Very valid.
So I think we as barbecue cooks need to start approaching this as we need to make sure we're presenting ourselves properly to the world so KCBS can get the funding and the support we need. We don't need to be killing ourselves on financial deals because we look like a bunch of drama queens on Facebook. That's the long and the short of it. And I'm just as guilty as a lot of people, and I know I need to be better at it too. But if we're going to attract good money in barbecue, we need to act like we want it.
Absolutely. Less deep question. What is one of your favorite pre, during, or post competition meals?
Pre-competition meal, Chick-fil-A grilled nuggets and their mac and cheese. That's usually on the way to the contest. On the way home, Mexican probably. Tacos.
Everybody says tacos. I want a salad, man. I want vegetables.
How about a taco salad?
All right, fair.
That's the first time my mom said it.
Do you have a favorite present that you like to give to people?
Oh, other than a karma roll? Probably, let me think here. Think about this a little bit. Man, I give a lot of stuff out. Probably the morning karma roll is going to be my ultimate because that's just what we do. We love to share them things.
Hey, man, that's great.
If I could fit 100 of them on my pit, I would cook 100 of them. So I apologize to anybody and everybody that I've never given a karma roll to.
I've not had one.
I try to make sure that the guys like you that have never gotten one are the first on my list when I see you at a contest.
It's all right, man. Next time.
We'll get it
all right. Gigantic billboard. You have one message to put on that billboard. Millions of people. What's it going to say?
Always follow your dreams and never give up. You are never out of the fight.
Pretty awesome, dude. Pretty awesome. Last question. There's got to be something here. What's an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love?
Just in general?
Oh, yeah, man. It doesn't have to be barbecue.
Barbecue related?
Fucking crazy.
Oh, man. What do I do outside of barbecue? It's hard to think about this time of the year. This is probably an easier question to answer in January when we're sitting around looking for everything we want, to do. That I still have, even though I'm big into barbecue, I follow the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series, and I never miss a race on Dirt Vision.
Really?
I love to watch sprint car racing. I used to work on them, and I'm not involved anymore, but I still love it. And a lot of them guys that were around when I was involved still are. So I get to see them, watch them on TV race and whatnot. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of my other thing besides barbecue.
That's cool.
I don't know if any of you guys watch that out there, but we do here.
That's pretty cool, man.
Actually, all them guys are racing in your area right now in that area, but so
Oh,
yeah, cool.
It's close to Richmond. Is it Richmond?
I think that's here for. Actually, they're a little farther away. They're actually in Ohio and Pennsylvania right now, so they're a little ways away. They kind of get towards your way towards the later part of November when they finish up. But yeah, it's just fun to watch. It's it's a little different than your once a weekend NASCAR. Those guys are a touring series and they race about 85 nights a week. So sometimes there's races 4 or 5 nights a weekend. They're only
nice.
35, 40 lap dirt track features. They don't take all day like NASCAR, and lap 1 to lap 30 is insanity. Being there's only that. That's probably why I like it, because it's that level of intensity,
All right. So, T-Duff. That's what we call you. You know that, right?
Yeah, it's kind of the. Because the funny thing is that's kind of what I had for a nickname outside of barbecue too. So it's kind of cool to kind of follow.
T-Duff, where can people come find you online? Hit some sponsors. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. We can be found on our Facebook page, Las Call Heroes BBQ. We're also on TikTok.
TikTok. You're one of the first motherfuckers on barbecue on TikTok, and you love that shit.
I know. I got bored in 2020, when there wasn't as much to do, and I just started playing around on TikTok. And
I'm the dancing guy, man.
I know. You should have been the first person with TikTok.
Yeah.
Beat me to it. And like I said, if you win Chicken of the Royal, you gotta have a TikTok.
Man. All right.
We're out there, and I want to give a shout out to my sponsors too, if I can.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna. This is the group of people that have supported us over the years and got us to the American Royal to win it. And start out first with my parents, Duffy Farms and Ray Hybrids, Willie at Barbecue Heaven, Fireplace Professionals, Jim and everybody at Compart Family Farms, my buddy Nick Dooley at Dooley Defense, Ribalizer, Man Meat Barbecue, and Joe Bob's Barbecue for giving us the amazing seasonings that allow us to do what we do, along with Smokey Okie. And last but not least, Jay Craig at Outlaw Smokers for building me the pit that I love to cook on.
Travis, thanks for being on, man.
Thanks for having me on, Luke. I had a lot of fun being on your podcast tonight. Good luck to you the rest of your season. Hope you have the success you're needing at the end of the year to get everything you need to get done.
Thanks, man. Thank you for listening to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. Be sure to subscribe and like the podcast, rate the podcast, and share it out with all your friends. Also be sure to check out the Old Virginia Smoke YouTube channel as well. We will have another episode for you next week. For companies interested in advertising, please contact Old Virginia Smoke directly via www.oldvirginiasmoke.com. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is edited by Chris Sedenka. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast is a property of Old Virginia Smoke LLC. All rights reserved. Copyright 2021.
Old Virginia Smoke.